Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. Specky has returned, and unfortunately, we've still not got a full house as Ewan could not make it today. But I am joined by the lovely Liam. Liam, how you doing?
It's 2 weeks in a row I've been called lovely. If you're chuffed with that, I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Hey, there's another compliment to come later in the show, but that's on the fan question segment.
Right,
But
okay.
Greg, you're joined us today, and it must be said that you've got some positive feedback on the podcast recently. Quite a lot of people are saying you're on form on the pod, Greg. No pressure, but how you doing?
Yeah, cheers, Jimmy. Yeah, not bad, mate, not bad. Hopefully continue that tonight.
Aye, definitely. And then obviously, let's just get fired straight into things. Big game at the weekend, played against Rangers, kind of patchy start to the season, I think it's fair to say, with the League Cup not going particularly great. Good result against St Johnstone, okay against Hearts. Flopped at Livingston, but Rangers going into it, I think we were a bit like, this could go very, very wrong, or we could have kind of a trap game for them. I think it found a perfect balance in between. But the team lineups got announced, and it was very different to anything that we've seen so far under Lee Johnson, and very clearly 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, however you see it. Liam, what was your initial impression when you saw the starting 11?
Try to do that thing where I was working out what the fuck kind of system we were playing and who was playing there, as I usually look when we've managed any more than one change, and I'm absolutely fucking flummoxed. I'm looking at like three centre halves. Josh Campbell, he must be playing left wing back, and eventually I pieced it together and figured out what we were doing. And then I had that thing where I was like, I quite like that team, and then I looked back and I was like, oh no, Newell and Doyle Hayes in the same centre midfield again. Oh no, what have we learned for that last season? Oh no, panicking. I haven't seen it. So I just didn't really care what to make it, which is usually how I feel at that time on a Saturday.
Aye. And Greg, I think a notable drop out of the team was Noah and Kenna. What did you make of that
Mm.
when you first seen team lineups?
Um, Probably deserved, to be fair. Although he got his goal against Livy, I felt like he was slow getting back. He didn't really do, what he was put on the pitch to do. Um, However, I was interested to see how Cadden would do at right wing back, and obviously he's a little bit um, curtailed at right back. So I thought, we're maybe looking to get at their full backs or whatever and push them higher up the park, and like we have done previously. But yeah, it soon changed when we got to the 26th minute mark and the changes started coming. So
I don't know if maybe Lee Johnson's watched back the semi final from last year, because I think in terms of the way we laid the team out, it was pretty similar to how that team looked. Even man for man, he was kind of like trying to drop players in similar positions. But I didn't think like we weren't creating anything going forward, but I didn't think we looked like we were under any pressure, to be honest. Rangers a couple of times in the box maybe got themselves into positions where they should have shot, but they were just kind of overplaying the ball. Were you worried before the subs were made? Did it come as a shock when Lee Johnson made a double change?
I didn't think we were playing well, but I wasn't worried. Like it was just a 20 minutes of nothing really before he made those substitutions. Rangers didn't really get at us. I think we'll play that system a lot against Old Firm this season, where we don't play with an actual number nine and effectively play two wide men in the front two, because the pace allows us to get in behind teams that are going to push on to us. I think we'll do that a lot, and I think it'll probably be when they're fit. I think Boyle and Ewan will be the first choice of doing that because they're the two fastest players in the team.
And Greg, for yourself, you've probably been the strongest advocate, I think, for Ewan Henderson, just because of how good a like League Cup
yeah.
campaign he had. Can you what's happened? Like, how do we get him back to the form that he was showing in pre-season that got us all so excited for the season ahead?
Um, that's a very difficult question, Harry. I really don't know, to be fair. I think he maybe plays his best football out wide. I don't think he's as effective picking the ball up from deep and running with it. I think when he's out on the left hand side, he is a lot more effective. He likes to chop inside or go down the outside and get to the byline. But yeah, it's difficult. He looks short on confidence. Picked up a booking as well, which when you play centre mid, it's difficult, because you're sort of watching your step the rest of the game, and he got booked pretty early on. So I don't know. Maybe he needs a couple of weeks out of the team. But yeah, I don't think centre mid's his best position, if I'm honest.
Aye, fair. But what we alluded to there, speaking of Henderson, he got subbed off for Christian Deutsch, and then Paul Hanlon. I'm doing my best to not get criticised by Liam here. Marian Chabraya, are we happy with? Yes, we got a thumbs up from Liam for that pronunciation. He came on. We went back to a bit more of a conventional under Lee Johnson formation, and I don't really think we saw immediate changes, to be honest. I've kind of felt the second half of the half went quite similar to the first half. I don't think that we created much, but I don't think that they were troubling us particularly much. Is that a fair assessment? Did you see any instant changes that made you a bit happier? Greg, we'll come to you first.
Liam pushed the button there. Nothing instantly, to be honest. I felt like we almost started to try and find our feet for the first 5-10 minutes after the changes were made. Obviously, it's difficult for Chebraya with what's happened this week coming into the team, and he didn't really know how he was going to do. But look, I think ultimately they were probably the right subs. The shape wasn't right. I felt like we were getting a little bit too much. But I think once we started getting the ball down and settled into the new shape, we were good. I felt like we were getting balls down the line and getting at their fullbacks, which to be honest, we know that Rangers struggle. We know that Tavernier is, what's the word I'm trying to think of, is
inadequate.
Yeah, that. At right back, I feel like he's definitely there to be got at. He's not great defensively, and if you can nullify his movement forward, then you take out a big part of Rangers' play. So I felt like we'd done that well down the left side, and I feel like Cadden was getting it Barisic a wee bit, but the final pass down the right maybe wasn't there. I do think the shape definitely helped us, and we settled into a lot more.
And Liam, just before we get you to finish off on thoughts of the first half, just for any listeners wondering, we're just going to have a Willie Collum segment. We can't be bothered beating around the bush. We'll take the 4, I think, key incidents from the game, and we're just going to break them down in a separate segment because can't be bothered jumping back and forth. But Liam, any final thoughts on the first half, excluding that decision towards the end?
No, there was nothing really happened. I think there was one moment, I think I might say it was in the first half, where the Scouse Jamie Murphy, as I'm going to call him, Ryan Kent, went past the Ibs players and then shot it about 15 yards wide and 15 yards over the bar. Ryan Kent's end product, by the way. Like, he got himself in some positions yesterday. Both his crossing and his shooting.
It's genuinely
for a guy
embarrassing.
Who's obviously
really.
got ability. He's obviously got something at his feet, but chronic.
The other
really
one
bad.
was Tom Lawrence at the edge of the box.
Oh,
he's looked for that extra pass, and it's like
just smash
obviously
that.
It's good for us because if he hits the ball there, he's probably scoring. But I thought from where he was and who was in front of him, he should have had a dig. But yeah, fuck him. Don't drink and drive.
Well, that's definitely true. Please do not. That is a down the slope guarantee. We do not drink and drive. But yeah, I think it's fair to say, even though we weren't particularly great on the ball ourselves in the first half, going into halftime, I think penalty regardless, I felt 1-0 Rangers was a bit harsh. I don't think they deserved to be in the lead as much as we didn't. I think that 0-0 was probably a fair reflection of how the first half actually went, but down 1-0 at halftime we went. However, second half, Rangers probably started on the front foot, but relatively similar to our goal against Hearts. We just got a very fast-flowing attack, and we won the ball back. I think that Matondo boy, who had an absolute shocker of a game, got dispossessed. Newell with a nice bit of interchange. Josh Campbell, absolute gravy ball through to Ellie Yuan, turned the burners on, cut it back. Boom, Martin Boyle's there. What a goal, guys.
It's a simple game when you get the ball moving quick. You know, I think it's that Tavernier is there to be got at. It's a simple ball between him and the centre half, and Yuan's right in behind. And you know, Boyle will always be in the right positions there. He's always looking to get across defenders, and it was a pretty simple finish for him. But it was good to see us really getting at them, because I felt like we needed a bit more of that. Be a bit more direct down the wings. I felt like maybe in the first half we weren't as direct. We maybe trying to overplay it a wee bit, but getting right at them at the wings, it paid dividends. 5 minutes into the second half.
And Liam, it's not a carbon copy of the goal against Hearts, but in terms of the phases of play that built up to it, just kind of like quick passing, and then just the burst of pace down the wing and a cut back. Why is it that we're struggling to carve those chances out during the rest of the game? Because that was the only opportunity we got to do that in that game. And then against Hearts, obviously, we only had the one. Is it just waiting for the opposition to fall asleep? Are we just taking advantage of that? Or is there something that we can do to bring that out in ourselves more often?
It's the precision of the ball, I think, is the thing that's the difference maker there, because Campbell plays that ball effectively inside the full-back and the centre-back, but it's into a channel. And we spoke last week about playing balls into channels against Livingston and it working and looked effective in periods where we just kind of loft it over the full-back or put it in between the left-back and centre-back. But it's just a really, really high-quality pass. And sometimes you try those things, they don't come off, or if you've got someone on the park like Doyle, you maybe become a little bit lazier and you play up to his head or up to his chest rather than playing that ball in behind. But if you're going to have two players like Boyle and Youan on the park, and Rangers are going to play a relatively high line in comparison to the rest of our teams in the league, you have to be playing those passes all the time, and you have to hope that one of them's a total Scott Allen kind of esque wonder ball, and that was from Josh Campbell. It's a very, very good pass.
And just whilst we're on Josh Campbell, I think I think alongside most fans, we've kind of been quite harsh to Josh Campbell. Very, very good performance. Definitely my man of the match from the weekend. I think that his energy is something that he's definitely never lacked, but I think that he showed some technical ability that he struggled to show against pretty much every team apart from Rangers, because he obviously had a very good semi-final against them as well. Greg, for you, just how good was Josh Campbell at the weekend?
I thought he was excellent. Maybe not the tidiest player on the ball at all times, but I tell you what, he does genuinely never stop, and you've seen the quality they can bring. He's split the defence with a pass, and he scored a great equaliser as well. But he needs to do it more often for me. I think the fans are starting to see a different player this season. Obviously, he got the winner in Perth as well. So, yeah, I think he definitely does deserve a second chance for the way he started the season, and I think everyone should be getting right behind him, and because he's certainly proven people wrong so far.
Yeah, and Liam, yourself, you were a big fan of how he played at the weekend.
I think he's generally never let us down against Celtic and Rangers. It's just been the other 9 teams in the league that he's maybe struggled against a wee bit. I think if we're going to play quick in transition, you need a Josh Campbell who's willing to sweep up the second ball and then just get it forward. I think Newell and Henderson in particular like to spend quite a lot of time thinking about what they're going to do, whereas Josh Campbell was a bit more reactive, proactive. I don't know, proactive maybe. He just wants to get out his feet and make a pass, and you saw that because I think it's Newell that kind of sort of wins possession, then Campbell has to then take a touch to get it beyond Matondo, and then the first thing he's thinking about is just playing it forward. I think if it had been one of our other centre midfielders on the day, I think they would have taken probably a good few seconds to think about it and then played a very different ball. Just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
And thankfully it crumbled very, very well. But speaking of things that didn't crumble very, very well, Hibs' defence for Rangers' second goal. That's a good segue, boys. Go on, give me that.
No, they did crumble though.
Yeah, they did. I'll break it down how I saw it. They picked up the ball. I can't remember who they won it back off, but it was quite a quick ball zipped out wide. It was either Boyle or Doyle Hayes should have been out wide to help Cadden. Initially, I thought it might be Cadden's fault, but Boyle. But yeah, you can't be having 2 players out wide, especially with a team with the quality of Rangers, and not have someone to track the overlap. It's not anything to do with Cadden. Then obviously, a great ball gets zipped across by Borna and Barisic, and Newell's just completely lost his man. In fairness to Rangers, from their perspective, fantastic goal. I think Lawrence attacks the ball in the way that Greg demands every Hibs player attack a ball. So yeah, it's, from their perspective, good goal, but frustrating to concede. Feel free to jump in off any opinions.
Junior not doing enough to track his man. We're not clever enough for the overlap. We leave Cadden out there isolated. And yeah, nobody really covers him selling glory there, to be honest. There's a good ball in, and to be fair, Tom Lawrence has attacked it well. But we really need to be doing more to A, stop the cross, and B, track the run. Even if Newell doesn't win the header cleanly, if he does enough just to put Lawrence off there, you just need to be getting in between the ball and the player there. But yeah, disappointing because I thought that we were going to kick on after the goal, and then we go and just concede a pretty basic goal. But I think we're going to see that a lot this season. I don't think defending is our main priority, which it is what it is. But as long as we're scoring goals at the other end.
And Liam, your thoughts on it?
Just disappointed with Boyle, to be honest. I think he can do a lot more to affect the play. Kind of leaves Cadden in a bit of a 2-for-1 situation, and to be honest, Cadden's never getting there to stop that cross. Position he's kind of been left in, so it's disappointing because actually, come on to talk about it, but in a defensive sense, he does something very good. Just a few minutes later, when he picks the ball up off the defenders, off that kind of ball that's broken away, and gets involved in the sort of, I suppose, not final third, sort of, what's the expression? Back third, last third. I think again. When it's defensively, what third is it? Your own third. I don't know.
The primary third, third, we'll call it.
The primary third. I'm not sure
that sounds like an American football term, Harry.
I know. I'm not sure I like it, but we'll go with it. Primary third. I don't know. Anyway, your own bit of the pitch. He shows what he can do. I think the game is it's still 11v11, and it's effectively 1-1 at that point. I think you've got to be kind of asking a little bit more from him at that stage of the game to kind of track back. But I suppose with Boyle, there is extenuating circumstances. Yes, probably still light years away from being fully fit, given how quickly he's been kind of thrust into the team. But you forget that, don't you? Because he's now made 3 appearances, and he's had quite a big impact in all those 3 appearances. It feels like he's been back forever, but he's not really played very many minutes this season. It was like I read someone, just a bit of a tangent. I read someone saying that Josh Campbell's had a really good season this season, and I was like, looked at it and I was like, hang on a minute, he played fucking 13 minutes against St Johnstone, he played less than an hour against Hearts, and he's obviously had a good game there on Sunday, but it's hardly grounds to say he's had a really good season. He's hardly played any fucking minutes. We're only 4 games into the season. It feels like the season's been going on forever.
Did you not drop an absolute stinker against Falkirk, or am I tripping? Was it Falkirk he had a stinker against?
Did anyone have a good game against Falkirk?
Yeah, no, true.
So no, I can't even by League Cup games. I mean, I don't get used, but I've purged them from my memory already because they don't tell you anything. It's glorified pre-season.
These are the games that matter. To be fair, I don't care about anything else right now.
The team kept mugging me off when it was COVID season, and I kept saying I don't care about the League Cup. We've got bigger fish to fry, but obviously the further you get in, I had to stop saying that. But this year we do have bigger fish to fry. Speaking of which, we were down 2-1, and as I said before, we're going to come on to the incidents that put Rangers down to 9 men. How do you think we handled that? Realistically, we're against 9 men for I think it was 15 minutes. 20 if you include the 5 added on as well. Do we need to be doing more? I think we had a few good chances, but there wasn't really too much testing of the keeper. Were you happy with how we performed after they went down to 9?
Very difficult when they're camped in their own box. Yeah. And to be fair, Rocky isn't the player I would want in the middle of the box dictating the play, with all due respect to him. He's not the quickest at moving the ball. So yeah, I would maybe rather see a Newell or Doyle Hayes or even Porteous in there, maybe dictating that a little bit more. We did have chances. I think McLaughlin made a good save from Miller's header. Rocky should be doing better with his header. It was nice to see us actually pummeling them, because usually it's the other way about and we're defending for our lives the last 10 minutes, but I think if we score 5 minutes earlier, we get another goal, we get a third goal, and we win the game. If I'm honest, I think we really had them on the ropes, and they were really, really struggling at that point.
And Liam, I know your initial reaction was after the final whistle, slight disappointment, just at the fact we didn't. Obviously, you're never going to play Rangers with 9 men again. It feels like. After a bit of time after the game, are you a bit happier with how it went now, or do you still feel we should have pushed on to try and get the 3 points?
There wasn't a huge amount of time left. I was one of those people who was really disappointed when we celebrated at 2-2. I wanted us to get the ball back. There was loads of people around me. There was pandemonium in the stands, and I think those sitting next to me can testify that I was shouting for about 20-30 seconds to get the fucking ball out the net and let's play. Because you're never going to get that time back. The referee's not going to add 30 seconds, 40 seconds for you celebrating. I know a couple of people have subsequently picked up on Porteous doing the same, but I just felt like 2-2 with them at 9 men. It was a golden opportunity for me, and even if it was only 2 minutes or 3 minutes that we had left, just a number of balls into the box. I fancied them to crumble. I thought they looked very nervous yesterday. I thought McLaughlin looked nervous. I thought the back two The two centre backs looked very nervous. Connor Goldson looked like a shite bag. Just the whole team, I just felt they were there for the taking, to be honest. Which it's unfortunate. Time was against us. We maybe wouldn't have fashioned another great opportunity, but I don't know. I just think that just based on sheer volume, you keep getting the ball in the box. Eventually, something happens. So you never know.
Well, I spoke through the first goal. Who wants to talk about that magnificent bit of magic from Campbell at the end? The floor's open.
You can talk about Dodge's header since you love him so much.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't love Doyle so much. I thought, again, he was relatively anonymous throughout the whole game, but credit where it's due. I thought that was an absolutely fantastic header. I think it was entirely intentional, which is something that Deutsch doesn't really do too much of these days. But obviously, it's slightly sliced, but what a finish. That was a gorgeous goal. It's one of those ones as well. I was sitting at home watching it. Unfortunately, couldn't make the game due to strikes, but because it was such a good goal, it makes you go a bit more mental. I always find like a screamer always gets you off your seat a bit more, just because it fills you with that energy, with like the unexpected. Because I don't know if it was the same for your guys' angle, but on the TV, it looked like it was going to like zoom miles wide, and then it just like burst the net. I was like, come on!
Yeah,
I did not see it.
To be honest, I thought it was doomed when Bojan had that swing and a miss. I remember just see him swing and miss, and I thought, fuck me, man.
The poor lad is not having a chance.
At Livy, I thought he is going to get fucking crucified for that. It looked worse at the time. It looks back on telly, to be fair. It doesn't actually look that bad on telly, but at the time it looked like a shocker. And to be fair, like, we'd been peppering them with shots for quite a period and crossing the box, but just didn't he? I'd probably sort of convinced myself at 2-1 it probably wasn't going to happen for us. Then for him just to take such a good first touch, and then I think, is he on record as saying that he sliced it?
Yeah.
Contact with the ball. It was a very good strike for a slice, isn't it? Like the movement of the ball's fantastic. Like you look at it swirling, it's a thing of beauty. Really good goal.
I would say that's when you go.
I think McLaughlin could definitely do more there.
Oh, really? With a strike?
Yeah. See, I haven't watched it from where I was sitting. I thought, wow, that's some finish. See, I haven't watched that video of the Rangers end. It's not totally in the corner.
Right.
I do feel like he could do more, maybe.
Through a sea of bodies away. It's that time for the goalie. He probably sees it very, very
well.
Not
that I'm complaining, not that I'm wanting him to go off a save there, but just... I don't know. I just felt like maybe, and to be fair, a few of the Rangers fans they were saying that they were like, "Nah, I think McLaughlin could be doing better there." But I feel like they've got a real vendetta against him. To be fair, so
against McLaughlin,
yeah.
Can I just say on John McLaughlin, I didn't realise that fucking John McLaughlin had posters of Matt Macy up on his bedroom wall because some of that goal kicking was fucking atrocious.
I think he kicked the ball 4 or 5 times. Like he's
inside as well,
and I'm talking. He was taking ages with the goal kicks, and then kicking it straight out, and everyone's like, "Oh, you took fucking that long." And he's kicked out of play. Like, let him do that, and we can go again. But yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with his distribution, to be honest. But I was impressed with Davy Marshall's distribution. We finally got a goalie that can pass the ball, and there was a couple of times. 2 daisy cutters right out. Yeah, I love that. What a sight. Beautiful.
He's also very good. See, when it comes back to him, he's just got to take a few touches to get out his feet.
Yeah.
His feet are brilliant. Like I look at him and go, fucking hell, there's some centre halves that can't take the ball that well at their feet. See, no make this about Rangers, but my understanding was that McLaughlin was playing ahead of McGregor because Van Bronckhorst wanted somebody that was good with their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Based on 2 games I've seen this season, I think McGregor's probably better with the ball at his feet.
Yeah, I don't think McLaughlin's great with the ball at his feet.
Right.
I'm not overly convinced by him. He might be better at a club that maybe doesn't expect as much, but yeah, I don't know. I think they're bang average though. I'm not overly impressed with Rangers. I thought that Matondo is dreadful.
Oh, he's
all pace in the end product. Ryan Jack looked miles off it. Goldson is grim. I thought Sands was actually one of their best players.
Yeah, he was alright.
He was all right. Lundstrom, dreadful. Ryan Kent looks like Sid for Toy Story. Tom Lawrence, other than the goal, I felt like he was pretty anonymous, to be fair. So. And then Cholak, who I was probably quite worried about going into the game because seems pretty deadly. He was pretty anonymous as well, other than one instant that I'm sure we'll come on to talk about.
All right, well, now that we've reviewed why everybody at Rangers Football Club is shite, let's speak about someone else who's shite. These segues are flying the night, boys. As we said earlier in the show, there was one person who, not for the first time, decided to make a football game all about himself, and he goes by the name of Willie Collum. There was quite a lot of cards dished out. There was a lot of controversial talking points. So what I think is anything that I've seen that has been deemed as an official talking point, we'll talk about in isolation, because that's how every incident in a football game should be looked at. If you're a referee, you shouldn't be like, I gave that, so I have to give that. We're going to look at them one by one in isolation, and then we can give our opinions bit by bit. And then, does that sound like a good process? Are we happy with that, boys?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, first half, Jake Doyle Hayes slices Lundstrom. The ball's there to be won. He's about a second late. He crops him. Definite booking. Is that fair? Not a debate of a red card. In my opinion, I don't think it's even close. Like, no person in the world sees it and thinks red card.
No, he's coming for the side as well.
Side, puts it on the ground, yellow card. Simple decision. We're stopping the counter attack.
Fair. I'm glad we're all in agreement. We're started off smoothly. I don't know if we're going to agree on the next one. Second one, they've got a free kick. Hibs have got a free kick, maybe about 40 yards out, gets floated into the box. There's a bit of roughing and tumbling between Rocky and Tavernier, and then Hanlon to Tavernier. Tavernier's got his hands all over Rocky. Rocky goes to the deck, but Hanlon's behind him, got his hands all over him. Personally, I don't think it should be a penalty, just because I think if you give a penalty for that, then you run the risk of having to give a penalty every time someone puts their hands on someone else in the box. And I just think it's a really messy thing. I think for that, it has to be absolutely surefire. And like, it's the type of thing Rocky could be leaning into him as well. It's difficult for the referee. So for me, I wouldn't give that as a penalty. What do you guys think?
Two wrongs don't make a right, it's a penalty.
Okay.
I think it's a penalty too. I just think it's the force at which he pulls him down as well. You can see the jersey movement, and it's two hands. It's not like it's enough in movement. I think the mitigation that the frauds on various outlets talk about is Paul Hanlon using the Rangers right back as leverage to jump, but that's never been a foul either. So I don't know. It's not mitigation for me. It's just a penalty.
At Dinosaur Dermot Gallagher. Get your facts right. Absolute clown. Honestly. I was baffled after watching that earlier.
And the thing is, Sky Sports as a broadcaster, like, their two biggest audiences are Rangers and Celtic, so they're obviously going to get a guy on that's going to be incredibly pro Rangers or pro Celtic. So what was the point in that exercise?
Stephen Warnock chiming in as well. Like, who even is he? What have you ever won in your career, son?
Scouse Ricky Foster. He actually thought, he looked like Ricky
he's
Foster.
He's not even that good, mate. Scouse Roland Edge.
But then one we're definitely all going to agree on, and I think that every single person in the stand agreed on, apart from a particular Willie Collum, Rocky puts his hands on Colac. Are we calling him? Cholak. First of all, doesn't need to put his hands on. I think it's more of a check where he is, and then when he sees him, he's just gonna, like. It's difficult to explain, but, like, you know, if you're trying to, like, he's not pulled him at all. He's, like, held him to, like, try and balance him up so he's not going to fall down. And as soon as Cholak's felt contact, he's obviously just threw himself to the floor, thinking, "Oh, might get myself a cheeky penalty." And then Willie Collins thought, you know what, Rangers have been pish. It's 0-0 going into halftime. Tavernier, step up, my man, have a penalty. Are we all in agreement that is an absolutely dreadful decision?
You're not going to like my response.
Do you think it was a penalty?
I think it's soft. There is contact. He's made the most of it, but you can't be fucking doing that. You can't be giving him any excuse.
That's true. That's true.
So for me, I think it's soft, but he doesn't even need to touch him. Does not need to touch him. And you know for a fact that as soon as he feels the contact, he's going to make the most of it. And the whole cliche of he gives the ref a decision to make. Yes, the ref should probably be making the right decision, but it's stupid. And I think soft, but probably just about a penalty.
Interesting and fair. Liam, yourself, what are you thinking?
You're going to need to give me a couple of minutes after I've gave this response to pick the splinters at marks, because I'm coming up with the biggest fence set of a response ever. So if I saw that in real time, or if I'd been asked to go and look at the VAR monitor, I would not have given a penalty. But if the penalty is given, I think under the rules of VAR, there's no clear and obvious error, and therefore the penalty stands. So it's going to be one of those ones where we get major shades of grey next, or not even next season, second half of this season, where we're going to see teams get decisions given against them that probably feel a bit unjust, as that one does. Mm-hmm. But I don't see how the decision would be overturned, because there's contact in the box and the player makes the most of it, but it's still contact in the box. Is it cheating? Not really, because it's still contact. Probably. Gamesmanship's the word. Bang on, it's gamesmanship, and I hate it with a passion, because I don't like that football's gone that way. But that's the environment we're operating in now, where forwards feeling, players in any position feel a contact in the box, they're going to go down.
That old term of he's bought that.
Yeah.
You know, Rocky shouldn't have his hands anywhere near him.
But, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it definitely is a grey area. Yeah.
Right, well, if we're looking back on the first half, we've given 3 decisions then that he had to make, and 3 big decisions, we'll say, and we're agreeing that he got the first one right. We're saying that 2-1, so we'll go in majority favours. We'll say that he got the second one wrong, and then we'll say the third one, like whatever he said on the pitch is probably a fair decision to have made. Is that a fair way to put it? So whatever he said in the moment is probably the fair way to look at it. Okay, so I'd say for Willie Collum, he's currently sitting at 2-1 then. So two correct, 1 wrong. Is that all right? We'll move on to second half. So second half, Hibs go 2-1 down, and then maybe 5 minutes later, Lundstrom, Boyle, as you said earlier, does really nice touch, gets himself a burst away from Lundstrom. Lundstrom slide tackles, gets Boyle, clips his legs together from his, I think it was about the top of his calf, he clipped his legs together. And then like Boyle's maybe about 35, 40 yards out from his own goal line. And then referee brandishes a red card. Were you initially surprised at the red? Did you instantly think that's got to be a red? What was the verdict at the time?
At the time, didn't think it was a red. And still don't think it's a red.
Very fair. And Liam? Oh, wait, no, sorry, Greg, on you go. Explain.
He's just not trying to smash him. He's used the outside of his boot to trip him. There's no studs shown or anything. So for me, it's definitely not a red card.
And Liam?
So...
Here he goes again.
Here comes the fence.
Nah, do you know what? I'm just going to nail my colours to the mast, because I've pretty much said it consistently since Saturday, and I've probably done a wee bit of backtracking over the last 24 hours on this one, because I think, having not seen it again, I was adamant it was a red card because of where Lundstrom's foot position ends up. It's pretty high up in there, and I was kind of making the case that it's the compound impact of, 1, it being a bad tackle, and 2, it stopping a counter attack, and effectively 2 yellows for the 1 challenge make a red card. But I think, having now had the benefit of seeing it back, it's not that bad a tackle. It's just a trip, but his foot does end up higher than it should be. His foot shouldn't be up there, and his studs shown, so the optics of it are terrible. But his actual position, when Collum gets to see him, is his foot's basically at knee height with the studs up. So the optics are really bad, but it still doesn't make it a red card. It's a yellow, but it's a bad yellow. I don't know if you mind
Kenny Miller.
quite a few years. No,
No.
League Cup semi-final at Easter Road between Inverness Cali and Hearts, and I think it was a Hearts player. It was on the break, I'm maybe right in saying, and the boy Josh Meekings for Inverness Cali cleaned one of the Hearts players out. I've not looked back at this chance for a very long time, but I think I'm right in saying he maybe got sent off for that in extra time. And I felt like at the time that was probably a very, very harsh decision, and I probably feel that it's kind of like it's similar, isn't it? It's a bad tackle. The optics are bad. All we have is red and yellow, so you can only really punish them with the yellow. I think it's the only fair outcome.
So the only reason for me, I don't think it gets undone. I don't think the appeal's successful because I think that because of Boyle's pace, he's already a good 2 yards ahead of him. Lundstrom can't reach Boyle unless he lunges, so it's not a slide tackle, it's a lunge. And for me, you can't be in control if you're lunging at someone, so it's reckless. And therefore, within the laws of the game, I don't think that Collum's called it right at the time. But now, like looking back at it, like you can't say the boy's not lunged at him. So for me, if that goes against me, I'm livid. But I think within the laws of the game, I think it probably is a red. And it's another one. I think as soon as it's called on the pitch, you can't change it to the other one.
100% go overturned.
Do you think? Just because it's Rangers?
100% get overturned. The way they were stirring up the narrative about it will get overturned.
Aye.
Always does with him. Always does. Arseholes.
But speaking of arseholes, a certain Dan Walker, but not Dan Walker, he's the NFL guy. What's his name? Andy Walker. That's the one I was looking for. Dan Walker sound.
Oh, there we go.
Andy Walker. So I'm watching the game at home, and then I see Morelos fail to elbow Chabraya, and then successfully elbow Chabraya, to then hear the commentator say he's only been sent off because of who he is. I don't even want to ask your opinion. Surely we're all in agreement that is just a clear as day red card. Like you don't get more of a red card than that.
To use a boxing analogy, he's just trying to find his range. That's what the first one is. He's just trying to find his range, and then he goes the second time with the forearm. Knows exactly what he's doing. He had a swipe at someone on his foot, maybe just a couple of minutes before that.
I think he was running back and he stuck his foot out. Yeah.
Classic Morelos.
Mm-hmm.
He's easily got 13 red cards, and it should be more, to be honest. He's been lucky to only have 13 red cards at the time he's gone.
See, when he came on, you could just tell he didn't fancy it at all. No. He really didn't look like he fancied it. He's hit him twice in the face. So clear red card, as you'll see. But he's not being sent off for who he is. He's been sent off for what he's done. Who he is irrelevant. Nobody would get. I don't know. I don't think he'd be sent off for that. But he's 5 yards away from the linesman, and he's done it twice, and the linesman's seen it. That's why he's been sent off, because rightly so, it's a red card. There's a reason they're not appealing that one. Put it that way.
Apparently, it's still under review by the club, so it might be getting appealed in the next couple of days. Goobers. But yeah, in terms of decisions, so I think we're in agreement then that he's got 3 out of 5 correct out of the major incidents.
It's not bad for a Scottish referee, to be fair. Genuinely, 3 out of 5. Like, I've seen worse referee performances than that.
It was a bit of a stinker, though, eh? But yeah. In hindsight, any other points on the game, boys? Any Let's end it on a positive note. Looking back on the game, we got a point against a team that realistically, I think we all thought we were going to get beat at the weekend. So, what's the positives we're taking from that game?
Again, we've gone right to the end of the game.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all you ask. You ask your team to go right to the end of the game, to put it in for the duration of the game, and ultimately you've got a point because you've gone all the way to the end of the game. You always need to be in the game to try and get something out of it. And we've done that three occasions this season already.
absolutely handing in my fucking membership of Beat the Traffic HSC, like, because it's fucking it's just not a good time to be a member, is it? Eh? Like, nah, it's good. I mean, I think like it gives everyone a wee bit of belief when you're scoring late goals as well, and it makes you feel completely different coming away for the game than if you maybe conceded that goal or equalised earlier on and had passed up chances. Obviously, if the last memory you really have got of the game scoring a goal, it changes your perspective on things a wee bit. Still quite sobering looking at the league table without jumping ahead to other things we're going to talk about. Like, still quite sobering that, despite all those late goals, we still only got 5 points on the table. So, but I'm back to positives. Lots of good team, like a good team performance, lots of good individual performances. Quite a few that probably could be highlighted. Thought Newell was good. Thought obviously Josh Campbell was good. Ewan and Boyle both decent. Trying to think who else.
Marshall.
Marshall didn't have a huge amount to do though. I think Rangers had 2 shots on target. So,
aye. But I just think like comfort on the ball and stuff. It's just nice actually seeing players being able to pass back to the keeper and not panic.
Aye. But other than that, it's some good performances. But I think what I would say is there were still enough players who maybe didn't quite hit the mark, or what's the words I'm looking for? Didn't quite hit the mark, or didn't kind of shoot the lights out on Saturday to make me think that we can get a lot better. If 8 or 9 of those guys are really on their game, we'll be quite a formidable team this season.
I think Lee Johnson pretty much summed it up. The first half were shite. We weren't aggressive enough in the press. We didn't get at them enough. We weren't as, we were a little bit toothless in the final third, but we said that before the season. When we come into the second half, we're a much better team. I like how honest he is. I do like that. I think it was refreshing, and the fact that he's willing to make changes early. So I think we obviously we've got a couple of boys to come back from injury, but I think we're looking fairly decent so far. Would have liked a couple more points on the board, but it's only a few games in, so.
And in fairness, it's a pretty sticky start to the season as well with the fixtures we've had. We've got 2 teams we're expecting to finish top 4, albeit at home, and then we've got 2 teams that are regular trap teams for us away from home. Are you? I wouldn't say I'm happy, but I wouldn't say I'm disappointed given this first 4 games of the season. Is that a fair place to put?
No, I don't know. It's 4 games. It's just too small a sample size to really say whether you're happy or unhappy. I think first round of fixtures for me is the judging point, but albeit I would say the next 4 games are really pivotal. I think we've got
winnable,
good chance of amassing some points in those next 4 games. I think anything less than 9 would be disappointing from those next 4 games. They're infinitely winnable. So I keep saying it, but there's something for me about playing teams at the right time in this league, and that being really crucial to how you do. I think we might be potentially facing some teams at the right time.
Absolutely, but just one more comment on the game, and then we'll move on to a team that would potentially be playing at the wrong time. I was want to say Josh Campbell, whether you like him or not, he does have a bit of a clutch factor to him. Just thinking back, most of his good performances come when we're behind. Obviously, the Rangers League Cup semi aside, like the St Mirren game in which he scored last season, he didn't really turn on until he what do you call it? Because that was an equaliser, wasn't it? That wasn't to go ahead.
That feels 1-0, I think.
Oh, did it?
I think St Mirren equalised. I think because they kept coming from behind against us last season.
Shaughnessy scored. No surprise.
So he did. But anyway, I'm going to call him the Iceman because I think it suits him. He scored 2 90-plus minute goals, and I think that's quite a cool nickname. So Josh Campbell, the Iceman. And I'm a big fan of his gif as well, the on the guitar. I think it's quite funny. But yeah, I don't think anybody's got any comments on that. So we're going to move on this weekend. We're taking on the Pandas of the Premier League. We're taking on St Mirren, going through to Paisley. I don't want to talk about it too much. We've got some fan questions I'm quite excited to dive into. But in terms of formation, do you think that we set up how we did after the subs? Is that approximately the team that we're expecting to see this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any changes at all? Does Deutsch start? Do we try and fit Melkson in there somehow?
No. It's rather a Bojang up front.
Okay.
I would play the same system as we did when we made the subs, but not the same personnel. I'd absolutely have of Bojang up front ahead of Doyle. He's a tough watch.
And Liam, yourself?
I'd bring Melkerson in for Henderson and go 4-3-3.
So is that from the start of the game? Or is that from after the subs are made?
The game I wanted to be. I can just say whatever I want. So it works.
Yeah,
you said 4-3-3 and I'm counting 4 attackers.
I don't want Paul Hanlon playing. I think we'd go a back four of Cadden, Rocky, Porteous, Chabrai.
And does Campbell retain his starting position? Heartless. What about you, Greg? Does he start for you?
He does start for me. Everyone knows I'm probably a little bit softer than Liam. But he definitely does start for me.
Do you know who I was low-key impressed with? No, not impressed with, but I thought he actually had quite a good game. I thought Doyle Hayes was okay. I think he was handy. I don't think he didn't do anything fantastic, but I thought he'd done his job very well. That's something he struggled at times with last season. He would just kind of fall out of games and be completely anonymous, but I thought he done himself justice, I think, at the weekend is a good way to put it. So I would start him. Aye. We've not got enough St Mirren players in the team to play St Mirren. I'm sure we played them last year. We had like 4 St Mirren players on the pitch at one point. Well, 4 ex-St Mirren players on the pitch at some point. I was buzzing.
But they just got ex-Hibs players.
Hey.
Your mate, Papa Gogic. How you got to feel about that, mate? Tears in your eyes.
Oh no, my man.
Watching Papa line up against Hibs. Heartbreaking.
No, it's not heartbreaking. Absolutely not. Dreadful.
He's definitely thought he was going to get a better offer here, and he's just ended up going back to that original offer at St Mirren about 2 months ago. Okay. Poor fucker. Funny living Paisley, man.
Oh god. But speaking of Paisley, things were looking pretty grim from them. Very poor start to the season. But Jack Dross, what are we calling him at the moment?
Sack Ross.
Sack Ross soon enough. That's what the fans are saying, Greg. That's not his name. But St Mirren put in a very impressive performance. I don't know if you guys have caught the highlights on Sports Scene, but that was 3-0 and they had an offside goal. They had a penalty they should have been given. That could have been a rout on another day. I think that was 3-0 and it would kind of flatter Dundee United. Is there any worries you've got about the St Mirren team ahead of the weekend?
No. Curtis Main's a pretty average striker, but
it's kind. That's kind.
I was going to say that's generous.
That's very kind.
No, he is average.
You would call him worse than average. Come on, if you were saying what you really think, you'd say worse than average.
Who are you putting at average? If he's average, who else are you putting on a par with him?
Doige is average.
Craig Dargo.
Craig Dargo.
Don't you be slagging Craig Dargo like that.
Football Manager legend, by the way. He scored like 2 goals in a cup final for me. Anyway.
Yeah, look, he is average. Let's be. He's a very average striker for this league. I would say this is probably his level, but he doesn't really excel at this level.
I reckon he's a 7-goal a season striker. Like, I wouldn't say that's average. I'd say for a striker, that's below.
He hadn't scored a goal. I read somewhere that he hadn't scored a goal in fucking ages. Like, honestly, I can't remember when the last time was he scored. He scored, or he maybe scored 1 goal or something after the split, and before then he hadn't scored for like a year. He's not a good football player. He's just big and physical and runs about and bumps into people. They were singing the praises of that boy Ayunga at the weekend. I only saw the highlights, so I didn't really have too much to add on that. But they were singing the praises of Ayunga, and I think the boy Bacchus? Another guy who looks, I think, like a decent acquisition, but they're a Stephen Robinson team, like they'll be rigid, but they'll not play very expensive football.
O'Hara seemed to be all right the weekend, set up a couple of goals, but he was helped by a couple of deflections. So.
And talk about playing people at the right time. Oh my God, Dundee United are in tatters. Absolute tatters.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you just couldn't get enough of Jack Ross just by loving him, and we shouldn't have sacked him. And
mate, you cleaned your bed sheets about 4 times over Jack Ross. Didn't he be giving us this nonsense?
For the 3rd week in a row, I know my stuff. I know a fraud when I see one.
See, the thing is with Greg, he's never wrong. He's just not right yet. That's it.
Listen, I'm always right, Harry. You know that.
I think the danger with Dundee United is going to be when we go to play them. Oh no, if they come on at
9th
home
September.
in
9th
between,
September.
fuck's sake, man. You want to play them soon while they're still on the books. They'll either have sacked Jack Ross by that point, and today it's looking quite likely that he's going to go, or if he's still in a job, it means because he's actually won a couple of football games.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's ideal time. I think I would rather. I'd love to play them on Saturday, to be honest.
Yeah. Get out of the way.
But because they've got good players, and you know we can sit here and say whatever about Jack Ross. The personalities working there are fine. Like they're to be honest, I know some United are different. I think their squad's comparable to ours. I don't think there's much in it. Like,
I think they've got some decent players, to be honest. I think McGrath coming in, you're expecting him to hit the ground running, but he's done nothing. But then again, they've signed players like Sybil to
that was a bizarre one.
Average.
Middleton as well, I suppose. Middleton's one of these players, though, who I think, because he done all right for St Johnstone, like, the minute he stepped up a level to a slightly bigger club than St Johnstone, you could just always sort of in the back of your head kind of tell it probably wasn't going to work out for him.
Yeah. But then they were all, I mean, everyone was loving Jack Ross after they beat Alkmaar 1-0 at home. Yeah, so football changes week by week. Opinions change week by week. So, Ireland 9, I don't change my opinions.
Never, not once. Never, not once. But moving on from Dundee United, we'll talk about them in a couple of weeks. But game against St Mirren, let's do predictions and then we can move on. So, Liam, I'll come to you first. What do you think the score is going to be? Who's going to be the scorers, if there are any?
2-1 Hibs. Juan's going to get his first goal. And Ryan Poach is going to get there.
Yay! That's Poach's, I think. On the Liam scale, I think Poach's is on 3 this season already.
4. I think I've got 4 goals. I predicted them every time I've been on this season.
And we're not counting the League Cup anyway. But is it going to be a comfortable 2-1, or is it going to be like they take the lead, we have to come back, or be 2-0 up and then squeaky bum time?
We're going to score a winner in the 90th minute. Plus, or as someone pointed out to me, after 90 minutes.
Who pointed that out?
Oh, mate.
Pointing their heat into the grass. Anyway, Greg, what's your prediction, mate?
I predict that we won't score in the first half again. Not done that all season, so why would we change it now?
We got all our first half goals out against Clyde. That was it.
I think Christian Doyle's got his goals out against Clyde as well.
Rest his career, by the looks of it.
That's him finished. I think we'll win 3-0. We are due. I think that we maybe are due to give someone a bit of a pasting. I think Johan will score. I think Johan will score 2 and Boyle will get 1 because Kenny no playing, not have him scoring. He's without a pre-season. He's still looking shit hot. So I think he'll get a goal.
I like it. But you know what I like even more than that, boys?
Will we score after the half-time, Jimmy?
I nearly forgot. That's a good question, Liam. I'll go for 1-0. 1-0. I reckon it'll be about the 58th minute, and it's going to be an incredible screamer from Jake Doyle Hayes. He's going to take his top off, and underneath his top, it's going to be "fuck the pandas" across his chest. It's going to be great.
I like how seriously Harry takes this.
Really I gave you a score prediction or a scorer. I just predicted.
Totally chucked it.
What's fucking Jake Doyle Hayes' beef with Edinburgh Zoo?
Oh no, it's because he's playing against St Mirren.
That's not the nickname, is it? No, not the pandas.
Is that what their singing section's called? It's something to do with pandas.
It's not that deep, lad.
All right, well. As I was trying to segue, but I messed up my segue. Now you are ruining my second segue. But my favourite part of the show of late has been Just for the listener's sake, actually, before we move on to that, I've apparently not qualified to play Guess Who because I'm that shit at it. So every time we've not got at least you and Greg on the show, don't expect Guess Who because apparently I'm too shite at it to play. It's
I
like
didn't even say it last week. I think it was Liam that brought it up, said that you were just dreadful because you don't even answer the question, you just sit there.
But like you can when you're younger, and then your mum's like, "Oh, go and play with the neighbour's kid." It's a shame they've not got anybody to play with, and then it's just me sitting there trying to play Guess Who, but never getting anything right.
That was like the 3 years with Harry. Anytime
But,
we're out, we need to look after him.
To be fair,
anyway,
I love when you and Winslow Guess Who, man. He's absolutely brimming, eh? Like he's like you're smiling. He's like, oh, you can tell he's just so happy.
We actually need to dig him up.
He's finishing.
We need to dig him up. He wasn't even at the game on Saturday.
Oh God, cool.
Disgusting. There were strikes on, and he was on a train. Makes me sick. Power to the union. Scab. Yeah, take that, Ewan. Now that we've done slagging off me and slagging off you, and we love you. But we're going on to fan questions. Just as well, me and
Liam are perfect and can't be slagged.
That's true. That's two handsome gentlemen, so yous are. But first question from our fan questions today comes in from Emerson Fettes. Fette? F-E-T-T-E-S? Fettes?
Fettes is in the school, I think.
Okay, Fettes.
They've been in hot water the last few weeks. Privileged nonsense going on. Anyway.
Well, they said safe to say Willie Collum should be the chap. We've done a full segment, so I think fair enough. That's more of a statement than a question, but we approve. Ed Norval said we need a number 9. Who is that going to be, and where does that leave Ewan? Left wing? Question mark.
A statement followed by a question. He's right about us needing a number 9. We need someone like we brought Doyle on, and he was the right kind of player, but not the right player, if that makes sense to bring on. Need a number 9. They're going to be difficult to find. What have we got? 9 days left of the window. Very difficult to find a very good quality number 9 with that period of time left. Don't want to be too dour about it, but I think it might have been a signing that we should have made earlier in the window, or should have identified earlier in the window, because we really do need one.
Maybe a bit patchwork until Nisbet's back, but we'll need to work through that.
Yeah, Melkerson untried, maybe through the middle a wee bit. I know he kind of has been tried, but not in that system with Doyle and you on either side of him. Could work, but just not Dodge, please.
And kind of a spin-off, we'll give Ed credit for this. When McGeady's fit, does Ewan still start out left?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so.
Based on what we've seen from McGeady as well, it's definitely how it is. Moving on, Freddie, I'm not going to say his surname because it's not there. Freddie _23_23 asked, why do we go out on Halloween if our parents tell us not to take sweets from strangers? Well,
my dad, God rest his soul, had a very strong point of view on this, and I was not allowed to go trick or treating or guising or whatever you call it, because he used to say, "It's fucking legalised for me begging," and we're poor, but we're not that fucking poor. We need to go begging. So I'd have a bit of a, I don't know, never liked it. I think it's really awkward as well, Ken, when you see them and there's like one of the kids is like blatantly about 14 years old and they're standing outside asking for a couple of quid. So you're like, fuck off.
Greg, your opinion?
Grow up.
What was your best ever Halloween costume though? Can be kid or adult. What else are thinking? One time
I dressed up as Anchorman, Will Ferrell and Anchorman a few years ago, and it was, to be honest, I didn't really need much of a costume, to be fair. Just grew a tash. Done the hair.
I got absolutely done once by Bex because it was like day before the Halloween dance at high school, and then she was going to get her own costume. And I was like, go and get me some pasta. She comes back with a fucking scarecrow costume, and I've not got any time to go get anything else. So I got pelted. I got called scarecrow for about 4 years after that. It was horrendous scenes. So hopefully nobody from high school is listening and starts calling me that again. Greg, any from yourself?
Boy, when I was younger, not really a massive fan of Halloween. Just want to get out of the way so we can focus on Christmas. But I remember one year, I'm sure I had a homemade vampire. outfit. And to be fair, a lot of effort went into it. So purely for the effort that went in for my mum and my granny, I'm going to say that.
Oh, that's cute. Oh,
Nice
you're
fancy
on
that.
you're on blur, mate.
Yeah, you know who will see it. We'll put it out with the pictures that go out of the
Aye,
episode.
aye.
There you go. That'll be a
Um,
treat for our listeners.
I've got another funny Halloween story, but we'll move on. We've got loads of questions. So we're moving on to Callum Neal 14, and he said, "What's your opinion on Ellie Yuan?" Fucking fantastic, mate.
Huge fan. Huge fan. Great, classic, cliche, great feet for a big man, eh? How good is he at getting out of his feet and just turning and going? He's got pace. I'm yet to see whether he can finish or not. I suspect the reason that he's at Hibs is he's not a lethal finisher. And like I said, when we first signed him, they'll probably use more on the left wing because he can clearly beat players for fun.
Greg?
Absolute player. P-L-E-R. Player.
Hard to disagree with that. And next question is from Jack Kell _1875. That's when Hibs were founded. He asked, what is stopping us from getting 9 points from our next 3 games, apart from the fact we're Hibs? Boyle and Yuan being on fire and Boyle still not being full fitness has given me confidence heading into these fixtures. Reckon if we can sign a left-sided centre-back, we'll be top. Anything stopping us from getting 9 points apart from the fact we're Hibs?
What was that question for that boy a couple weeks ago? It was like, why are Hibs worst enemy Hibs and Hearts worst enemy Hearts or something? Hearts or being our own enemies. That's what's stopping us. And a recognised number 9 as well. If I can get that in there.
Okay. Would agree with what Liam said, but definitely the number 9. An out and out number 9 that can actually run. Yeah. I feel like we're too early in the Lee Johnson process to get 9 points out of 9, and if I'm honest, defensively we're not there. Going forward, we look okay, we look decent, but the game was played in injury time maybe, but
fair enough. And now we got a question from Legod0407. And he asked, specifically to you, Greg, ask G why he never gave his granddad a lift to the game on Saturday. G, what happened?
I told him that I was going to get the bus, my mate Scott, and a few other boys, because we're going for a couple of drinks after the game for my birthday. And he was told that he could get the bus with us, and we could go for a couple of pints in his old haunt, but he declined, so not really a lot I can do about that. Can't force him. But I did sit with him at the game, like I have done for the past 24 year. So.
Did he enjoy the last minute goal?
He did. He's 86-year-old and he was having the time of his life.
The establishment that you suggested I'm going to, Greg, did it not serve tenants, and that's why I didn't want to go. Because I know that he's a big fan of tenants. I mean, they've locked up in the mash tun and being like, did I fucking sell tenants here? It's class.
Yeah, he is a tenants man, to be fair. They did sell tenants. I don't know. Maybe just wanted a quiet one.
You know what these 86-year-olds are like? He's probably got a better social life than I has put together.
Oh,
so
he definitely does. To be fair, he definitely does.
Some boy. But moving on, we've got Ray of Sunshine on Leith. Raymondo Brun asked, have you seen Groundhog Day? I think he asked the same question last week, possibly with a bent towards poor refereeing.
I've seen Groundhog Day last week when he asked the exact same question. This can't be it all week. Every week, you can't be doing this. Not every week.
I find that funny as fuck. Repetitive pattern, man. Can he beat it?
Well, Ray, we look forward to hearing what is Groundhog Day next week. And moving on to the next question, we've got Keith A. Robertson, who said, regarding our pen shout, I heard someone say it'd be a Rangers free kick under VAR because Hanlon contacted Tav. What is the rule regarding chains of contact between players? Does the contact made by the last player in the chain negate all others' contact and give away the foul?
No, I think
if the initial foul should be blown by the referee, so the second foul therefore shouldn't happen. It's not like in American football where like two fouls
Harry,
offset
give
one
it a
another.
rest, man.
The first foul is the foul, and that's the end of the play. It's like if someone's offside and then crop someone, they're already offside, so the crop, like if they get cropped, then it's negated.
Taveri puts his hands on Rocky first and pulls him down before there's any other contact. I don't know what the ruling is in terms of whether it be a free kick or not, but yeah. It depends what ref you get, because they all seem to just make up the rules as they go along.
Liam, any add-ons from yourself?
Nah, sorry.
No,
you
don't need to be sorry, that's fine.
Although Brother Beaton probably brands a red card and gives a free kick to Rangers.
And then Billy, King of the North 31, asks, who wins a foot race, Boyle or Yuan?
Boyle, I think. Depends on what distance. I'd say Boyle over the first sort of 10 metres, but I think in an all-out sprint, I think Yuan maybe has him.
Over 100? If we're saying 100-metre sprint?
Oh, Yuan. Boyle in the run 100 metres.
It's not even another pre-season.
No, fair. So we're saying acceleration, Boyle wins. Okay, fair. And then follow-up questions from Stephen S. Gall, 1988. He asked, follow-up question, who wins a race with a ball at their feet? Yuan's a pretty fast dribbler as well, to be fair, though. I don't think it makes too much of a difference.
I would probably say Boyle. I feel like Yuan's a little bit more touches of the ball. The Boyle's more a hit and run.
Yeah, agree.
Fair. And John McIntosh, 9820296 asked, what's everyone having for tea?
It's dinner for a kick-off.
I'm having... It's hard to describe, but it's not really got a name, but it's basically fry off onions and garlic with some chopped tomatoes, throw in whatever vegetables you want, usually peppers, some chicken, and then put halloumi on top of it and then stick it underneath the grill. Whatever you call that. A halloumi bake. Piece of piss. Nice. Very tasty. Some spices in it as well, some chilies. Nice.
Get a bit of kick. Correct yourself?
Honey on the halloumi as well, by the way. See a bit of honey on your
halloumi. Right, Liam.
All right, now we're all starving. Thank you, Liam.
Loud grossman over here, Gross Loudman.
I had the leftovers of last night's dinner tonight before we came on. Was it shoulder? A pork shoulder steak.
Solid.
With
potatoes and veg. It was very good.
One of the best things on a Monday, see when you've got leftovers for a Sunday night, you don't have to cook it again. You just heat it up in the micro.
Superb.
Because your Sunday night dinner is normally one of the best dinners of the week, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you get leftovers for a Monday, it's a very satisfying feeling.
Yeah.
Definitely. What you got? I was on a very good health kick, and then I had a holiday and a very busy couple of weeks at work, and it fell off massively. So I'm back to the health kick now. So every dinner for the next week's going to be broccoli, chicken, and rice. Unfortunately, nothing too exciting. I'll put some spices on top of it to
give yourself a yard, man. Give yourself a yard. That's
the weight needs to go quick. It needs to go quick.
Oh,
we're on the grind, boys. At the gym and everything. The past couple of days, we're getting there.
Given you're in London, I'm surprised you're not swapping out the fucking rice for quinoa or swapping out the broccoli for
couscous,
celeriac.
Did I not mention the chicken served to me from Waitrose themselves?
Moving
on to the... No, of course it's not. I got it from the food warehouse or something. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Grow up, you moving on, we've got Jamie Boyd 8 who asked Tom Lawrence's decision to try and square it, which he fucked up, instead of shooting at the wide open goal from 8 yards out. Laughing emoji. It was a bit baffling. We touched on that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fair point. Thank you, Jamie. Do not drink and drive. Do not pass the ball when you've got an open shot at goal. Mason Forrest 2707 said, who are the 2 or 3 players' guesses on who's leaving the club before the end of the window? And if players come in, who would you want to come in?
We put up a tweet about that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I think every single response had Doige in it. I don't think there's a single response that never mentioned Doige. I was like, we've really done right there. Doige. Can't say Campbell anymore, can I? That goes against the grain. But Doige, possibly Dylan Tate on loan.
Paul Hanlon.
McClelland on loan. He's not really got us looking since the season, like the league season started.
McGregor was on the bench ahead of him at the weekend, was he?
Yeah.
Someone else, I don't know. Release Runa Hauger, give me kind of get a game at Dundalk. I do can. I'm struggling. Dimitri Mitchell, actually. Dimitri Mitchell.
Yeah, good show. He played last night, actually, Runa.
Did he? Did he go off the bench?
He came off the bench. Aye.
Yeah.
Doing bits?
They got pumped.
They played Shamrock Rovers, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, God. But next one.
Dimitri Mitchell will go, I think.
Aye. I don't really have, like, I don't mind. If everybody stays, fair play. If everybody goes, don't let Yuan go, is essentially how I'm feeling at the moment. But the Hibs Ramble, new podcast that started off. Now, if you want to listen to the 892nd podcast that is out, I'm happy to say we were in the first 300. But in a pound-for-pound matchup, Craig versus Greg, Liam versus Ewan, and Michael versus Harry, with Liam F as ring girl. So our fabulous Liam would be the ring girl, holding up the card. Which podcast would win in an arm wrestling competition round robin? I think it's fair to say when you go,
my name isn't that difficult to spell.
I know. There was an I missing. I can't lie.
Yeah.
And they also spelled Ewan wrong as well. They went for the E1.
I'm not asked about him, to be fair. I don't care about him.
Do you know what I took issue with? I didn't like to put you and Moaning in the same category. I think they're suggesting that people that wear specs are in their own category for arm wrestling. I think that's unfair. I think that's discriminatory. So, Hibs Ramble, you need to back up your ideas because we didn't do discrimination on down the slope. We certainly don't discriminate against people that wear glasses.
Do better. But I would win.
Everyone is equal.
I'd win my game, and there's no doubt about it.
I don't think I am the ring girl because no one wants to see someone as hairy as me on a set of hot pants. Let me tell you that.
To be honest, Liam, if you look at the other 6 options of who could be ring girl, then I think we would definitely all vote, including yourself, for you.
I don't know. I reckon Ewan's probably got the voice to be the ring girl. I reckon, like nice and high pitched.
Mate, name one ring girl who you've ever heard their voice.
I don't know. But who's winning? I'm thinking Liam from Hibs Ramble squeezed my belly at Livingston, and if his belly squeezes in and we go by, I reckon he'd be on a good chance of winning.
Alright, so he beats you in. I see, the thing is, I don't know. Does Michael even play football? I know Michael is a funny guy, and I've bumped into him at the pub a few times, but I don't know how his arm wrestling game would be. I'm backing myself. Fuck it. I'm specking. Nah, he's probably specking than me. If it was hand to hand combat, I reckon we'd batter them all. No offense. We're not going to do that, but I reckon we would.
Sounds like Anchorman.
It does. Back to Will Ferrell again.
There we go. Superb. But next question comes in.
Oh, should you run to everyone else other than me?
What? Well, Greg, you went it. We didn't even look. We didn't even
discuss
it.
Who's Greg fighting? Craig.
Aye.
Craig.
We've turned it into fighting.
I think you've got a bit of a size advantage over Craig G. I think I'm probably backing you for that one.
In terms of height, or
I don't know. I've seen Craig at St Johnstone. He didn't stand out as particularly tall, but then no one looks tall to me. So, or very few people.
Oh my god!
Yeah?
The ring girls these days are sassy.
To be fair,
6'5" hairy ring girls.
Liam has got good feet for a big guy.
Hey.
Fuck's sake.
All right, moving on before we get ourselves in some form of problems. But I think it's fair to say our favourite listener to the podcast, Elaine Lumsden, asked, Cadden was player of the year last season, but hasn't had the same impact this season. What do we need to do to get him playing and impacting the same way he did last year?
He needs to go down the park and practice his crossing for a start.
Do you know what I thought he was good at? Sorry, G.
I feel like we need to play him wing back and try and get him for the park and without anyone in front of him. That's when you probably see him at his best. It's difficult because I don't think Lee Johnson wants to play like that. I think he wants to play a 4. So at the moment, I think he's going to have to try and sort of find his feet at right back, which can be difficult when he's had that freedom last season. But yeah, he's still got a lot to contribute to the team, and I think he will find his form. I think we're in a transition period, and some players are dropping off slightly. So I think he'll be okay. I think he'll get back to the heights he was hitting. Although I'm not sure he'll be player of the year this year. I think we've got Boyle back, Ewan's impressing, so I think he'll get player of the year this year. But yeah, he won it last year because there was fuck all else to choose.
Do you know what he impressed me against St Johnstone when he was just getting to the byline? And actually, if he can just get to the byline, that helps him a lot because it means he doesn't need to cross it. He can just cut it back if he can beat his fullback. So if I could give him one message, it would be hit the byline as often as possible until it becomes really obvious that that's what you're going to do, and then maybe look for that pass inside. Because he isn't a great crosser, and I think we've said enough times about him putting balls into the box, and there's maybe not been people there for him and giving him a bit of the benefit of the doubt. And he probably doesn't really have a Curtis Main doing that in the box. But at some point, you've got to just say, he's just not a very good crosser.
Yeah, it's a tricky one as well because I don't think he's ever going to be a natural right back, so I'm not sure if he stays as a first choice at the current moment or if he needs to try and compete for more of a right wing.
I think it's temporary. I don't think he's lost his form altogether. I think it's just
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just think with the system that we are playing, I don't think he's good enough to be shoehorned in regardless. Like I think Martin Boyle, if we didn't have a system that suited him, would be playing regardless. But I don't think Cadden's that good.
One wee bit of mitigation for Cadden? Also said he's a poor crosser. It's much harder to do what he does, which is hit crosses on the run, do what Chebraya does, which is hit crosses from a stand-in. Chebraya pretty much just gets out his feet and hits it, swings it in, whereas Cadden's usually doing it on the run. It's much more difficult.
No, absolutely.
Would agree.
But we've got about another 7 questions, so we'll fly through a couple of them. Thank you, Elaine, for that. Grant N'Golo Grante asked, thoughts on Hibs' recent interest in Harry McCurdy as another pacey striker like him, what we need. I see him more as a winger from what I'm aware. I might be wrong on that, but I'd take him. I think he seems like a good player.
Supports Chelsea. No thanks.
I thought he was a Leeds fan.
No.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm pretty sure he tweeted yesterday.
Oh, I read it the wrong way around.
Oh, right.
So yeah, no thanks.
Fair.
To be honest, I'm not. Look, I think he's decent. I don't think he's all that. I don't think he's all that he's made out to be.
Just one season, eh? One season scoring goals for Swindon last season. And was it League 2 they played in last season?
I think so, yeah.
It's probably... It's a difficult one, eh?
You never know how these players are going to adapt up here and how they're going to get on it. So I think I probably wouldn't take the risk because you're going to have to pay decent money for him.
He probably doesn't look like the kind of profile of number 9 that I thought we'd be signing either. He looks wee. He looks like about 5'7", 5'8". I was thinking we're more in the market for a kind of hold it up and link it up sort of player who would expect to be bigger. I'm not saying you necessarily have to be big to play that role, but Kevin Nisbet's like 6'1" maybe, and I think sometimes he looks small up against centre halves in this league. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't be against it. But...
The issue we've got is that Kevin Nisbet's 4 months away from being back, and I think at this point you're better just waiting until he's back because you don't want a 6 month loan. So right now I'd probably be happy just to wait until he's back in and make him the number 9.
Just do a fucking swap deal, Stephen Fletcher for Christian Dyche with Dundee United. See if they're that desperate. Just test the resolve.
But moving on from that scary prospect of Dundee United's transfer dealing, Dan Taylor sent an image, and in the image it's a front 4 of Ewan on the left, Nisbet up top, McGuinness at centre attacking mid, and Boyle on the right. And he asked, how excited are you by the following image? Instead of going into depth, because I think, to be fair, it is quite exciting, out of 75, how much excitement do you feel at that image?
Harry, why'd you pick random numbers, mate? Don't just be normal and pick like 100.
Because 75 is a bit better, eh?
It's not.
75, I'd say 69.
Hey! Greg, what are you going?
See, Harry just
Smile
needs
when
to
you
grow
said
up.
that.
Needs to grow up. This guy.
That's my ring girl.
I would do that number too.
Gee, what are you saying?
You're
75. Give us a
really
number.
bringing the tone down in this podcast. What would I say? For marking it as 75, I would say 75.
Yeah, I'd go for a solid 72 because there's always room for improvement.
Moving
Moving on.
Are there any sexual positions known as the 75?
Oh no! All right, we need to start wrapping this up. We're losing the head, boys.
Wow.
Heidi Hibernian, we're going to skip the first part because it was Harry McCurdy. He said, I'd want him, especially if Doidge and Mitchell are sold as per rumours, but I think a CB and probably a CM would be higher on my priority list, especially considering the fee that's being talked about. Is CB and CM higher on your priority list than a striker? Where do you rank that at the moment?
LCB with a left foot, the highest.
Go on then,
Liam.
say it. Go on, say his name. Say his name again.
Oh, Liam Lindsay. Sign on.
the Liam Lindsay's official cheerleaders podcast. Nah, I'm a G on that. I think I'm left sided centre back, then a number 9, then a centre mid for me.
Fair. Just for the basis of time, Greg's best mate, Dave Graham, asked, is Rocky now first pick before Porteous? I'll start here and say on current form, yes. Because I think Porteous has been pretty poor this season, to be honest.
You'd pick Rocky out of Porteous?
At the moment, yeah.
Who you played in our centre back plot position?
No, but we're just saying that, like, I can't you hate the first name
on the team sheet.
Oh, it's that name on the team sheet shite again. Oh, right, here we go.
That was doing American football, mate.
Dave, look what you've done. All right, the boys don't like the question, so we're moving on. How much time will Josh's super strike...
Just don't like the way you've asked it. or how you go on about it. First name on the team sheet. I think they're both as important as each other. There we go.
And we can all hold hands and kiss and be best friends forever. Thanks, G, for that. All right, Jeff Ashton at Ask Ham Photo asked, how much time will Josh's super strike buy him with the Boo Boys? On another note, we are only a fit Nizzy, McGuinness, and a new centre half from being some team.
I don't think it needs to be bought time. I think people can see how good he's been this season. So yeah, Lee Johnson clearly rates him. That's probably trust Lee Johnson's opinion more than Jack Ross. And Lee Johnson seems to be getting a good tune out of him. So if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Agreed.
Campbell will play a lot of minutes, either in the 10 against Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, and Aberdeen. We need a guy that's going to go and mop up second balls and be busy in that space, and I think he'll probably get some minutes at fullback this season. I don't think we'll see a lot of him in a sort of deep lying midfield position, which is clearly not his strong suit.
Fair. And back with another question. Greg's best mate, Sean Steele, 1995, asked, is that now Hanlon on the way out? LJ must realise and see that the team were far better without him. PS, no trying to soak up to Greg and his Hanlon hate.
He is, though.
Yeah.
He's looking for validation. I'm just joking, Sean. I'm just joking, son. I think it's clear to see that Lee Johnson's not his biggest fan. He's happy. He's happy having an unbalanced back two. And by unbalanced, I mean he's got two right footers. I think he's happy with that. So I think that tells its own story that Hanlon possibly isn't his way out. I think he certainly didn't help himself last week. But as Dave Graham pointed out in my mentions on Twitter, I spent 10 minutes analysing his mistake last week and not praising him for the goal that he set up last week. So well done, Paul Hanlon. And he played okay for the 26 minutes on the pitch at the weekend. Hopefully that's enough for Dave Graham.
And Liam, yourself?
Yes.
Cool. And then we've got two more to go. John McIntosh, I'm not going to say your whole at again. You've probably already discussed it, but if VAR was in, what, if anything, would have been different about Saturday? I don't think any of the decisions change apart from maybe Lundstrom.
Yeah, I think Lundstrom's probably the only one that changes. I don't even. I mean,
I just don't know if it's
I
clear
don't
and
know.
obvious, though.
You know what? Nobody really knows the answer to that. Having played when VAR's in operation, it's difficult because there's stuff going on that you don't even realise. So unless
Let's
they
talk.
pulled it back, you wouldn't know. So they would look at Morelos again because it's a straight red. So they would look at Lundstrom's again because it's a straight red, but Lundstrom's maybe would get overturned, but Morelos wouldn't.
All this talk of VAR is distracting away from the main issue, which is Catholic
The
school.
refs aren't good enough.
Oh God, let's move on. We're going to get cancelled. Dave Graham asked two players we're going to sign. I'm just going to throw out Harry McCurdy and
Liam Lindsay.
Yep. And then one final one to end it off. I think Greg will like this one from Richard_01875. Who wins a foot race? Christian Doidge on grass or Martin Boyle on sand?
I'm not joking. Christian Doyle could be in a motorbike, Martin Boyle could be in a pair of shoes, and Martin Boyle would still win it.
Someone, Stuart Ross, 1978, commented saying, "Quicksand will be a fairer race."
Would agree.
Oh
Yeah.
man, it's Archie, but he is towing like. Oh,
Yeah.
That back pass and he was chasing after it. I thought, fucking unclip the lorries, mate.
All right, on
Very,
that
very
final bit
slow.
of Doidge bashing for the week, we have come to the end of another very random episode. I feel that we've all kind of lost the head in the last 15 minutes, especially. My room's particularly warm, to be honest, as you can see by my red face. But thank you very much for listening. As we've established, Willie Collum actually got 60% of his decisions right at the weekend. We're going to pump St Mirren either 1-0, 2-1, or 3-0. Your questions, as always, were appreciated and hopefully answered well. And we will see you next time.
6 out of 10 equals 60%, and everybody knows that 60% of the time it works every time. Good night and God bless.
Goodbye.